Hi students, here's the video that I promised on the book that we're starting this week, Asking the Right Questions by M. Neil Browne and Stuart Keeley. And I refer to the book as Browne and Keeley. I want to point out that there are two editions that you might have. Students last semester had the 11th edition, Asking the Right Questions, a bunch of question marks on it. And I think this semester the bookstore ordered Asking the Right Questions, the 12th edition. So either you have one or the other. I want to point out that the 12th edition has different chapter numbers than the 11th edition. So just make sure that you are, when I say reading chapter 1 and 3, it's different in the 12th edition. So make sure that you're reading the correct chapter, and I'll make sure that there is 11th edition and a 12th edition comparison for you. If I came over to Amazon.com here, and this is the 12th edition, and you'll see that chapter 1 is the same, the benefit and manner of asking the right questions, but chapter 2 is what are the issue and the conclusion, which in the 11th edition is chapter 3. Okay, so I'm sorry about that confusion. The publisher just mixed up some of the chapters, but either book is fine. They have the same chapters in them. You're going to do just fine. Okay, so I want to talk. I have a PowerPoint, and I want to walk you through the PowerPoint, which I will make available to you on class. So here it is, asking the right questions, the benefit and the manner of asking the right questions. And I want to kind of preface this with what happened in class last Wednesday. When I came into class, I had a few students come up before, and they kind of told me that I'm confused. They were the couple students who hadn't turned in the assignment, and they didn't know what was going on. So when the rest of the class came in, I opened up the conversation, and we talked about this matter of being confused, because I told my students that to be successful in navigating a college curriculum, either a certificate program or a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree or beyond, you have to be able to deal with an awful lot of confusion and work your way through it. So I asked students in the class who worked, I said, I want you to go back to that first day at your job, and I want you to remember, were you confused? And the two students who spoke up said, yes. One was a retailer selling clothes, and the other one was a waitress. And they both agreed that on that first day, one was 4 months and the other one was a year ago, they both didn't know what was happening. So then I said, okay, so now come forward. And I said, are you, 4 months or a year later, still confused? And the students said, no, they were not confused. So I said, I asked, so if you could go back to yourself when you started on that job, what advice would you give yourself? And the students said, ask more questions. They also said, hang in there. Because confusion, you work through confusion. So if you're confused, know that in college that is what happens. Okay, so but you're going to work through confusion, and you're going to ask me about it. So this particular book is on asking the right questions. Okay, so let me just kind of scoot this over so you can see. I can't kind of make it any bigger. I can't. So it's a little bit bigger than my screen, but you get the idea. So the book points out that we live in a noisy and confused world. And they point out the things that we live in an imaginary world where we are not influenced by anyone. That people who are persuading us to do things will always tell us the cons on what they're trying to convince us of. And if we're confused, we can always find experts, and those experts will always agree with each other. And when we're presented with an important decision, do I change my major? Do I keep my major? Do I continue to go to school? our minds are always calm, we're always engaged, and we spend a lot of time reflecting on these questions. And so if I had a button and I could press, not, that is not true. So, for example, right, should we use more tea? And that's a question that the chapter brings up. So if you have a time, right, so if you have the time, what answers can be found if you do an internet search? So it would be good right now if you could pause the video and just take like 2 minutes and say, should we drink more tea? Find out how many links on that are available that say yes or no or what tea you should do. And this expert says this and this expert says that. And if you wait a year, these experts are going to change their mind. Okay. So and the other thing is that those trying to persuade us, they don't play fair because they only tell us partial truths. And the book points out that, the socialist doesn't really explain the dangers of a large government, and conservatives don't really explain the inequalities that happen and how difficult it is to pull ourselves up by those bootstraps. And then sellers of, retailers, right, they don't explain that the reason that we can buy the Mickey Mouse for $20 is because somebody in Haiti is getting 5 cents a day to make it. So this is the confused kind of world that we live in. So it's important to understand this matter of the concept of System 1 and System 2 thinking. Daniel Kahneman wrote a book, and he has on fast and slow thinking. And this little video here, watch the video, is very short, or no, it's 10 minutes. So watch it. It gives you an idea of what fast thinking is and what slow thinking is, and the benefits of both, but how we have become a society now that is more comfortable with thinking quick because we have the internet and we can press our Google and we can find an answer really quick, and we're very uncomfortable when things take longer and things are more difficult and more complex, and when we get confused. So take the time to pause this and kind of take a look at that video. It's worth the 10 minutes. This concept is prevalent throughout the whole textbook, and I will refer to System 1 and System 2 thinking, fast and slow thinking, from here on out in the course. So then the next thing is, this matter of experts, right? So we think we can go to an expert and get an answer, but experts don't agree. And actually, if you take a look at Daniel Friedman's book, Wrong, the Experts Keep Failing Us, watch the short, it's only a 2-minute book trailer about experts failing us. One of the big ones is that, you probably don't remember, but there was this belief that spinach was the best green vegetable to eat because it had the highest iron of all the green vegetables. And what they found was a scientist made a decimal point error, and that spinach is not any more good for you than any other green vegetable. So experts make mistakes all the time, and I think you could probably even think of some things that were good for you or bad for you. I pointed out also in my face-to-face class that at the turn of the 1900s, Bruno Bettelheim was a child psychologist, and he actually gave the reason for autism was that the mother was cold and unfeeling and didn't care for her child. So if you know Temple Grandin's story, when she had her daughter, her mother had diagnosed Temple Grandin as being autistic. It was the mother's fault. Well, now you fast forward to today, we know that autism, being autistic, is not because your mother wasn't overly affectionate or spent a lot of time. There were other reasons why you're autistic. So expert fail us, and you're going to see it in your lifetime. Experts are going to change their mind. So really and truly, there's a necessity of relying on your mind, especially as a college-educated person in this world. So the number one thing is you're going to have to think, you have to have control of your beliefs, okay? And if not, you become a mental slave of whoever is talking. So, you know, one person says that you should only drink tea. Another person says that you should only drink coffee. Another person says, oh no, you should only have milk. Oh no, you should only have whole milk. Oh no, you should only have almond milk. So if you don't take care of the rationality of these arguments, you're going to be a slave to whoever's telling you what to do. Critical thinking, right, encourages you to listen, to learn from others. So you should be open to what people have to say, but you also should be thinking and weighing what they say. And then we do depend on experts, but you should verify the experts, and you should kind of say, well, you know, so and so is great. However, you know, you should research. That's why you should look into your sources and make sure that they're credible. Critical thinking also liberates you and empowers you, right, to be the supervisor of who you are becoming. So critical thinking refers to the 3 A's, and I always try to give a mnemonic, a way for you to remember. If you can think of a better way to remember this, then please do. So first of all, there's an awareness, and it's usually this awareness of questions. Okay, so interrelated questions. The other one is the ability to ask and answer these questions. And then the third one is a desire to use these questions. So the 3 A's of critical thinking are awareness, ability, and I guess it's a D. I should put D there. I'll correct that. So I have in my Fresno State education, my teacher, Rick Hansen, said and pointed out that high school focuses on having the correct answers, but college focuses on having asking difficult questions. So that's why it's so important to ask the right questions. When you ask a question, in an online class, we did introductions, and a number of you, when you responded to someone, you asked them a question about what they had said. By asking a question, you say, I'm curious about you, I'm interested, I want to know more, you know, help me, give me more information. So that's so asking questions is very important. It shows that you're engaged. Critical questions also do the following. Okay, so they allow you to react critically. Rather than emotionally, they allow you to kind of give yourself a pause to be able to examine things in a critical way, all right, rather than just react or absorb the information. You also get to judge the quality of the lecture or the speech or the text or the authority, and that is part of higher order thinking skills, is this matter of evaluating of what you're hearing. And then you get to form the argument, which we're going to go into this essay 2, which is an argument paper. So, and we're going to write that paper. Okay, so so the big concepts in this chapter here is this matter of the sponge way of thinking and the panning for gold way of thinking, and I'll give you a better picture of that one. So sponge, panning for gold. Okay, so the book does point out that there are good characteristics about a sponge, but you know, if you want to think about them, you should think about them. For one of them is a sponge, right, absorbs a lot. It's passive, it doesn't do much. It can be a pro and a con. And then if you think about it, how is your learning like a sponge? So take a minute, take a look what the book says about the sponge kind of thinking. But of course, in this course, we're going to kind of emphasize this matter of panning for gold. So how does panning for gold kind of thinking differ from the sponge? Well, the sponge absorbs everything, but when you're panning for gold, you have to notice what is dirt and what is sand and what is pirate fool's gold and what is real gold. So there's some discernment. So in this asking critical questions, you are learning how to ask these critical questions. And then the last part is this matter of weak sense and strong sense critical thinking. So weak sense critical thinking is pretty much defending your stance and not listening to what anybody else has to say. And then a strong sense critical thinking is even if you disagree or agree with something, you are still going to examine it critically, and especially your own beliefs.